All right, we're back for part two with Zack from Dettmore 101. I had no idea he was a painter in his early days, but if you watch his and follow his work, it makes sense. And this idea that we're talking about of painting everything the same is brilliant. So I'm going to add him in. Awesome.
Long time
So,
no see.
so the whole kitchen now has a two-part polyurethane, the most durable paint you can put on a surface. And it's all sprayed with the same sprayer by the same guy at the same time. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I mean not quite the same time, but we did the
Okay.
ceiling first.
But at least it's the same batch of paint, you know.
Yeah, and the one thing I was really um, jazzed about with that Malaysia, because obviously it was way more than I budgeted for paint. Because when I bid this job, it was like 10 months before I had even hired Lazarus for my other project. So all of this was a freebie for the customers. I didn't charge for any of it, but um, it was crazy how little waste there is in the Kremlin compared to, like, 200 foot of hose and a Titan airless sprayer.
Yeah.
I would have been breaking my heart spraying that down the garbage.
Yeah. And that's the catch with the two-part paint is it's more expensive and you make a batch and you have to throw out anything you don't use.
Mm-hmm. We actually had one day where we were sort of like, this is our milestone. We'll hit this. We'll circle back for the doors. And then there was like that much left in the bucket. Like, we're doing the doors. And Brian are like standing. And Lazarus was like, get out of my way.
Yeah. It changes the dynamic, which again changes the price.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you did it as a free upgrade. That's how I've built my entire business is just free upgrade at a time. And then next time you talk to the client, just like act like you've done it a million times and you know what it costs and you can charge.
Yeah, and I think you're right about the samples, because I have no way of describing that to customers, how it looks different. Because we in the upper floors we sprayed, I don't know what it was. It was a Sherwin-Williams product of some sort, and it was just like, how pedestrian.
Yeah.
And it was like, it's like so much better than the average paint job up there, but it was just like.
I can give you a few sales tips. This is what we use. It's Italian, right? That's like, ooh, Italian,
Yeah.
puddings, right? It comes from, it's not sold in paint stores. Like, those are just two, like, gives people context. But then the chemistry of a two-part product versus a one-part product, it's always, no matter what it is, it's always going to be more durable because they can't stand alone. You know, once they start, once they mix, the clock starts ticking. But then a 2K a polyurethane has this is always the analogy of the polymer bond. So
Mm.
a conversion varnish, which is what would be on standard cabinets, is
Right.
acid bond, which is good, but it's brittle and will crack, and you can only apply so much mill thickness before it fixes. Whereas a polyurethane, you're going to get incredible flex, incredible durability, and you can add more mills over time. So that idea of a polymer bond in an Italian paint, you know,
Filippo Berio.
it's the little things, But it's like, okay, well then you can compare that to a one-part trim paint that sells for $50 a gallon, and you can buy it tomorrow, and compared to like, oh, I have to wait for this commercial coating, it's more expensive. It has to be mixed as a two-part. Like, you break all that stuff down, it's like, well, you're going to get a much better product. And people are just like, okay, even if they don't believe you, like, well, he knows a lot.
Right, yeah. They're just like, all
right,
where do I sign?
That's the client today said that. She's like, all right, good. I was like, oh. But when you know the coding a little bit, I found that does help. And then, yes, you hand them a sample board and go, feel this. Now scratch it. Take your fingernails and scratch it. Now go do that to your trim and see what happens.
And do you do samples like on a piece of flat stock, or do you feel it necessary to put it on casing, put it on a door, put it on something?
So I'll tell you that I'm actually guilty of not doing ton of samples. I don't have to do that, but like,
do you know who I am?
like, kind of don't, because they've seen, like, I do the absurd camera angles and catch, like, follow the light challenge where, like, you can see it.
Yeah.
But when the clients are on like Thursday, I'm bringing samples to a client for that $40,000 kitchen. She wants to see color, but now she can see it. But we'll do it on, like, I honestly, a lot of times I do it on a like 2x2 MDF square. Because we just cut up like 150 of them one time. We primed them all, and they're all just sitting there waiting for top coat. It's super easy. We also have random pieces of trim that we've done it to, and then depending on the color, we'll just spray it over the top of the other color. The wall paint, we can get into that because Fine Paints of Europe makes a latex wall paint called Eurolux. Phenomenal. It's a matte paint. It's incredibly durable. And that sample I used to use that sample a lot. And that paint feels like porcelain. So you can go to a wall and touch the sandpapery wall paint from that they have now because it's full of filler. And then you touch the Fine Paints wall, it feels so smooth. And then you explain, well, there's no filler in it, and it's going to be more durable, and the light's going to reflect off of it better. A few steps in, they're like, okay. But seeing is definitely believing with paint.
See, so the Fine Paints of Europe thing is a whole different world to me. I feel like I'm a bit intimidated by it. It feels a little elitist, and I'm like, oh, you have to get certified? Jeez.
You don't have to get certified.
I know you don't have to, but I'm like, oh,
wow.
Well, what am I missing if I'm not certified? I'm like, there's paint. It's on the wall now.
It helps sell it a little bit. It's a great network of people, but if you, and you have the sign. So
I do have the sign.
You're halfway there. They might let you in just based off your calligraphy skills.
My wife did that for me.
I was going to say, you got too many talents.
No. Got too much time on my hands.
Like Phil said, it's the perfect entry-level Fine Paints of Europe product. You can give it to Lazarus tomorrow, and he'll apply it like he applies all other wall paint. And at the end of the day, it's a significantly noticeable difference. And if you buy the 5 liter, which is like a gallon and a half, the price increase is not significant. I think it's like $140 for a gallon and a half. So versus $200 for a gallon of the trim paint. It's not significantly more than Aura. It's slightly more, but I used to sell it against an Aura sample board, and it's night and day.
So when I brought up the Scuff-X and I saw that lightning bolt of pain across your face, should I use the Eurolux?
Yeah.
Because it's like an oak table here, wall, window, and it's just like kids' fingerprints.
Yeah, it's a perfect product for that. It's a great entry. Start dabbling with it. You do one small project with it, and you'll be like, oh, it's just like what the Malaysia is to standard trim paint. It's like I sell 2K poly on cabinets. The cabinet job I looked at today was like an island and a couple accents. It was like $12,500, and it's $18,000 if you want fine paints. And I'll tell them it's a big difference in price because of dry times and expensive, blah blah blah. But the difference is really aesthetics. An oil enamel is going to have a depth of color, and it's going to have a feel to it, a richness to it that a 2-part polyurethane won't. But they're both super high level products, but one is a step above if you're really looking at it. And I think the same thing is true with a Scuff-X to a Eurolux. They're both going to probably have very similar scratch resistance. You can't go wrong with Scuff-X on the walls, but the Fine Paints is just one step higher in the color will reflect into the room better. And
well, I already put Malaysia on all the trim in this room, so I may as well do the.
Might as well. It's the perfect like little marriage of high quality trim without going to fine paints, because that's a whole crazy thing, and awesome wall paint to match your trim.
Mm.
I can't wait to do with your first Fine Paints of Europe 5-liter.
Yeah, it's happening. Hopefully, a gallon and a half does the whole thing, because I've got
Covers like almost like 700 square feet.
Oh, we're good then, because it's teensy weensy area.
See the coverage of it too, like it's just an amazing. I'm excited.
Amazing. Just send me your Amazon link, your affiliate page.
Yeah. Yeah. So I when I heard you say, I watched your stories the other day, and you were talking about the pricing of cabinets and stuff, and I love that you're just being. Did you ever read if they ask, answer, or I'm butchering it now. They ask, you answer.
I haven't.
It's an awesome book. I think
I'm writing it down.
I actually was at a social media marketing conference a few months ago, and the writer of it, the keynote, like final speaker, and blown away. I was like, I read that book. But he talks about sharing pricing like openly in his blogs and stuff about his pool company and what that does to your sales. But I saw you talking about pricing of stuff, and then you mentioned that you were going to finish the custom cabinets in-house.
Mm-hmm.
Going to save you money. And I was like, that's not been my experience. That's interesting. But you have an in-house finisher. So I can see how – I'm still interested to see if it ends up saving you money.
Well, it's bigger than that, because it's going to save me money, because I was already going to go with a custom color that no cabinet shop was going to offer me, like the big cabinet shops. So that was already pushing me into a custom cabinet line with a custom finisher. So I'm already paying that price to get that color. And so now I'm able to go with a custom cabinet biller that's also a big company. So they're giving me more competitive pricing on the cabinets, and I don't need to pay for all those little bits, like I said. So I took what was like what it would have been, say, a $40,000 cabinet package. I took the finish off. Now I'm down to $30,000, and then I pulled the little bits and tricks out. Now I'm down to $20,000, and then I'm going to paint it, and then back up to 25 or whatever it is. So for what they're getting, they're saving money. But it's not something I'm going to run around and campaign on Instagram, because it's like, are you a general contractor who happens to have an expert finisher at Kremlin and knows how to use Malaysia in-house? Well, this is the project for you.
And that's pretty rare.
Yeah, exactly. But it is what happened was this project, it was like good project, good reasonable budget, and then sort of COVID-19 hit, and it wasn't a house that was really move-in ready, and their lease is going away. So it was sort of like, hey, we need to get this project to less money, basically. And I was like, we can do that. And I was like, I guess I'll sort of not do inset, which is my jam, and I'll we'll make it work. And then I was just like, like I don't want to do this, So if it works, I think we'll be doing every kitchen this way. If it doesn't work, I'm never going to speak of it again.
It's going to work. And I think it's a huge competitive advantage, like because of what we're talking about with paint and trim to match. When you can offer that, that's your step into that next level of like, hey, no one can even offer this.
Yeah, and I think another way it'll make money too, which you would get, is because we're assembling the cabinets as well. We're going to mask them before the carcasses are on. So we're not doing this goofy masking tape situation. It'll be like face frame, masking tape, and then we can just push the paper in from the other side. And I think that's going to save a little bit on the masking time too. But
I love that idea. Like all of it. I mean, that's business. Like you're adding a ton of value to your client because of your unique value proposition, right? Like you can do those things. They get a great deal. You still make money, and like the next step is now charging a premium for that same service, right?
Right. Now we know. I didn't know we could do a cabinet grade finish before a couple months ago. Now I know we can do that in a job site, no less. Now it's like, all right, now can we do it on an unfinished cabinet? Because I've never done an unfinished cabinet that, I mean, I've done like vanities and stuff, but I've never done a whole kitchen. So that'll be the next thing. And does it make sense to, I'm torn between spray the doors on site or rent a booth. So we'll see.
If you have the space to do it on site, it's not, I know lots of guys that do, but space is everything. And having the rack system. You know, you need a good rack system.
Yeah, I might need to make one of those or buy one of those.
I do a third Fastrack tower coming in. They make a very robust tower for cabinet.
Yeah, what's that, like at $1,500 or something?
$1,300 per rack.
Oh, you killed me.
Rack with heavy doors, and it doesn't sway. And
Fastrack equipment is on here. Why don't you hook me up? I'll give you $600 right now.
I found that why I love Fastrack is how robust. I mean, he builds everything so over the top that, you know, because he's a former painter. He's not a business guy. There's a couple other companies I won't name that make products for racks that it's like so underbuilt, but it's at half the price.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, we're going to use these all the time. And when I put my doors on them, I don't care if it's a big like pantry door. It's not going to bend that thing down. And when I go, most importantly, when I go to move that full rack around my shop, no one's worried about things breaking or falling off. It's built to be able to be moved when fully assembled.
So what you're saying is you paid like $200 for that rack.
It would honestly, like Fastrack, I can't put a value on their product. I made the video the other day. Like, if I didn't have them, I don't know what we would do.
Is the Fastrack system? It's also the one I see you moving like into the trailer with these doors and stuff.
That their door system specifically there's nothing like it. There are a number of cabinet tower racks that are on varying degrees of quality. There's nothing like Fastrack. I was able to load probably 800 pounds worth of doors into the trailer by myself.
Yeah, and not damage them.
Not damage them, and then transport them. You know, actually, they got damaged on site today. The DC, the carpenter was installing them. We had 3 of them on the rack, and he took one off. Rack was like still really solid. They took the next one off out of the middle. So there was one 250-pound door on the very, very end, down by the water, by the ocean, and the wind blew, caught that door. It's not on Instagram, so it's okay. I don't have to tell you. He called me up so disappointed. He's like, gotta worse. So the racks are awesome, but you do have to like balance them.
Right. Yeah. Don't leave them on the beach.
Yeah. When you're near the beach and there's 40-mile-an-hour winds. But other than that, like you can leave a 300-pound door can be put on the very end of that T, and it's completely stable. It's a phenomenal system.
We got a job. We've got 30, maybe 20 doors to paint in the basement, and we've been having the whole debate of like, are we spraying them on the hinges? Because it's, you know, like in a basement, you've kind of got soffits everywhere. So we're just going to end up ruining all of our walls if we move the doors. But at the same time, it's always kind of an overspray nightmare if we're spraying them in the door opening. So gotta mull that one over.
You gotta get a big shop, a lot of overhead. Get a big spray booth.
Yep.
And then figure out how to fill it. That's what I did.
That's the way to go.
Oh, the crazy.
I'll call it ZK painting.
Are there guys that you can rent booth space from?
One buddy of mine has a booth. Two guys I know have booths. Neither of them have given me pricing on what they would charge for it, and it's sort of the job has enough space that I'm like, we got we can put 4 air scrubbers in there and kind of makeshift it. I'm more worried about the air I'm pulling in being an issue. And I've seen you do sort of like dust walls with filters on them, and maybe we'll do that.
Also,
steal that idea.
Take 2 of those fans and blow air, like push air in, like filtered HEPA air.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just blow that in. That's what we've been doing that more often. Phil did on the last one, where one of like the little build, not the build cleans, but the
dry ease.
The dry ease. That guy's outside the booth and he's exhausting clean air into the booth. And then you can use any fan to exhaust air. You can use the cheap, like we'll use cheap for a few $100s, with our 2 to suck the air out through some pre-filters. But you have to make sure you're exhausting outside into the house. Little specks of paint are still getting through pre-filters. But I think that's a great idea. And you like what I did was I built those so many times that eventually I was like, well, I've built 14 of these temporary booths. I guess I should get a
right.
It's like I think I could pay for a booth by just not having to set up, clean up a booth every time. But I think that's probably a great way to go about it, is to do it on site. You can build one pretty easily.
Yeah, I think we'll start. We'll do if it looks like this is a thing for us, which I think it will be. If it, is finishing all our own stuff, then I think probably a booth would be the next move, because then we can do all our doors and all our parts and stuff off site and just sort of clean up the job site, because that's another thing. It's just hoarding stuff on the job site all the time is a little bit irksome.
I also know a guy in Colorado who has a big trailer that he brings to the site and sprays out of. Actually, Mike from Fastrack Equipment, he used to do that, and he was selling his trailer at one time. I don't know if he still has it, but he's in like Wisconsin, I think it is. So you can drive a 24 trailer around. I don't know how I would do that in Rhode Island, but you could I know you could consider just getting an enclosed trailer and sort of making a spray booth on site.
I like that idea. I'm thinking I need like a country house that I just redneck it up, and it's just like trailers and all like miscellaneous vehicles there, because where I live, it ain't happening. Real estate's too much of a premium to like, I'll just put this empty spray booth trailer here till I need it.
Yeah, that's another. So you work your shop is your garage, right?
It is, yeah. And that's another reason I'm trepidatious about buying tools too, because I've got to store them in what little space I have, and it's like wood shop. Also, we do a lot of supply of materials, so there's like toilets in there and doorknobs, and it's a lot of stuff in there.
It adds up fast.
Exactly. So you could go through a lot of square footage. So back to the country home idea.
Is it tough to find shop space around you?
It's not tough per se, but it's just an overhead that I have trouble justifying, because I would need to grow the business to really have someone working there, at least one person working there full time. And I would say a shop this similar size to what I have out there, it's probably, in the $2,000 a month range. So it would hurt a little bit, so I'd have to have it producing. And I'm kind of overhead averse.
I love that idea. Averse. Grown into our overhead now. And when I was 3 people and had the same overhead, very, very not profitable. Now I have 9 people, still not profitable because we're training apprentices, but the future looks at least. But I'm a painter, but I rented this shop and put the booth in, and it sat empty for months while I was like trying to sell it full. And even for a long time, it was, you might do a project in it, and then it would sit for a month. And only finally now, it's like chicken or the egg. It's like you have to have it to sell it.
Yeah.
So when are you gonna be able to do that? So, in my experience, it's like just get it, you'll have it. Again, for me, it offered a competitive advantage to a GC to go, hey, we can do a project like we did one in Boston in a high-rise, really expensive place, and it's packed in. So I'm like, hey, I can take all the doors out of here, and GC was like, yeah, please, that we were able to offer that, and I had an idea like that would make me special if I could take it off. Same with cabinet doors, like I can refinish a kitchen and not take up new house, and then marry those together because they're sprayed with the same exact equipment.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
So the country shop's going to happen. I think I see it. It's on the horizon. It just might be a next year thing. We'll see.
That's awesome.
How big's your shop?
I want everyone to get a booth. It's like it is a ton of money and it's insane, but if you can keep it busy, it's so nice. The amount of time we take to set up and clean up is nothing. And
yeah.
I built many, many spray booths.
Yeah, I imagine it's nice too to like have your, I feel like there's certain, I don't know, just like moving the unit around, setting it up, connecting it to air, cleaning it out, like just that's where I lose money on a sprayed finish versus having that just set up. It would be so much easier to just make a quick repair. Oh well, a girl can dream.
A very smart. I used to have this. Well, the first shop I ever had was a empty tractor trailer carcass sitting in like a field kind of thing near a building with shops.
Nice.
That I rented to store all of my random junk that I had. And there was this custom wood guy. And he specialized in arches, and that was his thing. Like people came to him for crazy stuff, and he would see me building these elaborate jigs to do one project. And he I'll never forget. He came up. He's like, "Look, build a temporary jig 5 times, and then the 6th time, build a real one." But he's like, "You're gonna build this insane jig." I was building a steam box to strip old windows to get the glazing out, and I was like overbuilding this thing like it was gonna sit and produce year round or something.
Right.
He's like, "Dude, you're gonna use that one time and never again. Why don't you chill out on your over engineering?" And I have like taken that to heart, and it's like, yeah, make 15 spray booths and then eventually go, okay, I'll buy one.
Yeah.
It's a great piece of advice.
I like it because I think it's especially, we're always part of what gets us into this business as business owners, I feel like, is this like childlike optimism that tomorrow will be a better day. And, it's so easy to feel like, yeah, I need a spray booth. We sprayed one kitchen. Obviously, this is the right choice. And they're like, how much is it? Oh, but yeah, it's at least 10 grand. And then you got rent on it. Yeah, that seems like it makes sense for me right now. How much did you make on that kitchen? Negative $8,000.
Exactly. I just bought a track saw to cut one table in half. I was like, I've been wanting a Festool track saw. We have no business owning a Festool track saw. No business. But I have this 14-foot long conference table that I built that I need to cut in half because no one's going to buy a 14-foot long table. And I was like, well, that's the perfect excuse to go buy a track saw. Bought the track saw that day. It's been sitting, table's not cut. It's like, maybe I didn't need the track saw.
But you wanted the track saw.
And it had been stirring in the back of my mind for long enough that my brain was like, yeah, that's a good idea. I have to call sometimes, and I called. I was ordering the track saw, and then I was like, you know what? I got to get the right details on that. I'll call you back. And I bought myself like 4 hours, and then I drove to a store I knew would actually have it in stock and bought it.
That's how you know it's an impulse buy. Where you're like, can't wait for shipping. Must get it now.
Going through the book to get you the code. I need to go get it. Oh, but that's the kind of stuff. At least I do it on a smaller scale. The $30,000 booth was like a little nuts.
Yeah.
But I've had a lot of success, and I like to rise to the occasion. You know, I do tend to like put myself into a corner and have to like fight my way out of it, you know.
Well, that was me. That was me with the Kremlin too. Like we could have done that job with Lazarus's paint equipment or my paint equipment. He had a painting company and I had a painting company, but you put those two together and somehow we need a Kremlin.
Yeah, but it feels good, and like guys like us, like we'll figure out how to like do something with it at some point.
Oh yeah, I mean it hasn't rested. I smashed it with a door the other day, broke all the gauges and everything off of it. Damn thing's way too top heavy.
Yeah, they're not like the most ideal the way they're like racked.
Yeah,
I think, but
don't leave that out on the beach either.
Yeah, no, don't stand it up. Lay it down. But like to that point, I think in business, I've done a lot of that, and it's like you just keep doing it, and like 1 in 5 things will catch, right? And
yeah.
then you like that's a business is like the risk we're comfortable with.
Yeah, and you can't beat yourself up about the bad ones because there's good ones in there.
Yeah, you wouldn't find them if you weren't trying stuff.
Yeah, if you were panicked about it, it's so much fun. It's fun to run out and get a track saw with. It's almost like gambling. You're like, this could be it, honey. This is it.
It is like gambling. It's sick, but you know, I couldn't do it any other way.
No, me neither.
All right. So we have some other. What do you have a DIY tip? Doesn't have to be just painting, but is there like something? I mean, and you have a whole page full of sort of this, I guess. Well, it's like, what's the main thing if someone's going to try to do their own project that you're just like avoid this thing?
Okay. I would say avoid trends if you can. Like I feel like there's a lot of you can really carbon date a renovation based off of what year it was done by people who are following the people on the cusp of the trend a little bit too closely. And I find that's a waste of your money because those are the things you're going to be ripping out in 5-10 years. So what's the point of doing a really nice paint job on this, you know, S-shaped soffit that was really cool in, you know, whatever 2021 when it's coming out. So I think there are some well-worn roads of design and you know, if you're a homeowner and you're trying to navigate design, I feel like one of the things I run into with that is they're like, I like this backsplash and they put all of these hodgepodge things together and it looks horrible. And you know, just cool your jets. Your house will be cool enough with one cool element. Don't you know, cram them all in.
Do you work with designers a lot?
I do.
Because the scope of the project is so big, it's like you might as well actually have someone put this whole plan together. Or what are your thoughts on designers?
So most projects I have a designer on them, and it's really to help hold the customer's hand through the sheer volume of decisions. You know, a good example would be if you want to go with painting, would be, all right, you've got the color of paint, the amount of walls that are going to be different colors, the sheen, are you doing accents? And you can do that with everything. Okay, I like this tile. Well, do you want that tile on all surfaces? How big are the grout joints? What's the pattern? How wide's the grout joint? What type of grout are we using? What color of grout are we using? Are we using the same grout on that wall as we're using on the floor? And like, I think clients often underestimate the sheer volume of decisions they're going to make. And if a customer is a lot sort of, when people do see the sort of designs we do and stuff we facilitate, and they trust us, it becomes so much easier for them because we're bringing 3 good ideas to the table and they can give their feedback on that versus like the whole world of ideas. And then when they have that and you dump all of these things we're going to need, like grout colors and these specific things that go into bathrooms and kitchens, it's pretty overwhelming. So for me, it's more about shielding myself a bit from the amount of hours that go into that, because it's hard for me to keep on top of the managerial and logistical stuff that are going on and making things happen if I keep that design. Although the current project, that kitchen we're doing, we did the design in-house. So that's another new thing we're doing where all of that was done by us. So we shall see how that goes. What's that?
Are you the designer?
I'm not actually. I'm helping, but my wife designed it.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty happy with it. So we'll see.
Does Tyler do that as well? Does his wife from doesn't his wife?
I don't know. I think she has a lot of good ideas, but I know he also works with a lot of designers as well. So I imagine she's, busy.
You worry about like alienating designers when you offer it as well? I've heard people like debate whether or not to offer like design, because once you kind of go design build, then it's like harder to work with designers maybe because you offer that. Well, is that something you've experienced?
Yes and no. So there's always going to be a push-pull, but I feel like good architects recognize that I'm not a threat to them, and good designers understand what value they bring to the table. And certainly what my wife and I can do, or if we bring in another designer, which is a potential thing we're looking at, there's limitations to what we're able to do. And certainly I don't think that would limit me at all, because we're not really a threat when it comes to like these high-end customers. You need a high-end designer who is going to select those finishes and is comfortable working within that realm. And there are certain things that I'm really comfortable with. It's pretty high-end, but the job I'm working on, the designer, went and picked out special wallpaper, all these finishes, went through a lot of different options. And that's just beyond what I'm willing to do ever in the company right now. So, so I think not is the long answer.
It's a cost-effective option to give the client more value, but if their budget's at a certain point, then having a separate designer is beneficial then.
Yeah, and I have a lot of conversations with clients about we'll facilitate the design if your taste aligns with ours, but I work with an architect who only does contemporary stuff, and I would never take a stab at that because it's not my world. I can do it, and I love the way it looks when it's executed, but I don't know how to get to that vision. So you'd be wasting your money paying me to do it. So it's sort of these clients are my wife and I's age. They have our taste. We agree a lot on stuff. It's very easy for us to do it. Other customers, not so much. And even that just has to do with age even. Like I would rather have an older designer work for an older clientele because they're going to have a better vocabulary and meet these people where they're at a little bit more. Like you don't want this hip person trying to do this like retirement house. It's not going to work.
Yeah. There's a lot to be said. I really enjoy working with designers. And it's once you start working with them, you start to like really miss when they're not around, because it's like it takes some of that responsibility off. Like, I'm not responsible for drilling the holes in the cabinets. I am also not responsible for the color of the cabinets.
Mm-hmm.
I know how to. I'm staying in my lane, and if you don't like the color, it's not. I didn't like guide you to that color. I get like now I get like I can be like, well, I work with some really good designers, and here are some colors that they've been using.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I told that client it's a $40,000 kitchen, like, you know, and then she wants to do a bunch more like stuff, like crazy amount of gloss. Like, you're starting to look at such a large price point that I think paying for a color consultation is probably worth it. But some people are like, I do not, like, no, I'm going to choose, like, I'm my own designer. And those are the ones where I'm like, oh man, like I miss having the designer just be responsible for all that.
Yeah. And it's, I think it's also a good designer has conviction too, which is like a learned skill. Like there's always that apprehensive as a painter, as a contractor, like I know these colors look good based off experience, versus a good designer's like Dove White, 100%, you won't regret it. And usually they believe them and they like the color, and that's the end of it, where we're like, do you like it? Like as you're rolling it on, super apprehensive.
Talk about this. They're the really good sommelier that has an awesome story that makes the wine taste so much better, versus like we're like the level 1 sommelier that's like
we're like, I'm getting grapes.
Smells like alcohol. You like alcohol?
It smells like it came from the Franzia region.
Yeah. I also like that designers, I've always tell clients, like designers, because they speak the language and they eat, sleep, and breathe it, they can, with more conviction, like you said, like take risks. And they're comfortable because they know the language and they know how it's going to go together. Like, yes, you can go the dark navy blue over here. Mm-hmm. It's going to work with the rest of it. Where I've seen them give clients the confidence to go a little bit bolder. Mm-hmm. Where if they didn't have that designer that could tell you, like you said, like this is going to look good, people might be a little bit more conservative in their color choice.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important part of it. Like Amanda's down here; she's working with me on that Malaysia job, and like I recommended her as a designer, and I recommended Rosario as the architect, and they were both like, I like curated the whole job with existing customers, but like I picked Amanda because I knew she would like get the customers where they needed to be to make the project come out the way it needed to, because the clients had like a little bit of a modern taste, but they moved into a Victorian house, and they're sort of like caught and not sure what to do with the furnishings. And she's got the confidence to like, this is the right decision. I'm 100% sure of it. Whereas if I walked in there, I wouldn't be 100% sure of it. Like the wallpaper, she picked like this like blood red trim. It's not blood red, but it's red trim and wallpaper in the whole dining room. I couldn't in a million years suggest that to the customers, and it's going to look so good. It's going to look epic, but it wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't even thought it was possible to suggest that.
That's why I love designers, because when a good designer finishes a project and we did the painting, it's just like, oh man, this feels, it's like the whole thing is different.
Yeah.
Like these pieces that don't necessarily fit together. I was on a project that we were just wrapping up a couple days ago, and they had the beam sat down from the ceiling like 2 inches, and it's drywalled or plastered, and it goes across, but then the same beam must come down one of the walls, and it sits out 2 inches. So what we ended up having was, when you looked at the ceiling, that beam that came across and the beam that came up, it was like, well, do we paint this? If we paint this whole ceiling beam ceiling paint and not the little 2 inches, the wall paint, well, then that's going to die into not a flat wall, but it's going to die into like at 2 inches of wall. And so do we take the wall paint all the way up? And if so, so we ended up
you miter it.
But I was able to FaceTime the designer, 2 seconds. Hey, designer, this is what we did. Do you think it's a good idea? She said, yes, that's what I want. And you're like, done.
Yeah.
That's a client. Like, that's a whole hem, haw, back and forth. I don't really know. And, then I'm half responsible for it. Where it's like, designers like, yeah, that's exactly what I would have done. Moving on.
Yeah.
Feels good to, like, not be responsible for that stuff.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, it's so good.
Awesome. All right. Do you have a favorite piece of, usually we ask for paint paraphernalia, but like any type of tool that has to do with business, a product, anything around what we do? What's your favorite, like, piece of it, of what we do?
Like a tool?
A tool or a product or
a tool or product. A favorite tool or product. Would you prefer it to be painting specific?
No, because you're a GC. Let's hear. It could be anything.
This is so hard to pick just one. I want to say, what is my favorite thing? I don't know. I'm struggling here on this one. There's too many good ones. I guess a label maker.
That's what I was guessing. I bought a label maker probably after watching you, and it's sat in the box for a solid 8 months now. So now that I'm saying this, hopefully I'll bring it from my house to my shop, and my team will start to use it.
Make it happen. What's that?
How do you use your label maker?
I mean, I pretty much everything's got a spot and everything's got a label on it, and if it doesn't have a spot, then there's a problem there.
That is a goal that I'm going to set for myself and our company. I think I have enough team members, like, we should be able to achieve that at some point. Everything have a spot.
Yeah, but it's okay to have like a spot where things go that don't have a spot, but that has to be labeled as this is where things go that don't have a spot. Not like these are returns to Home Depot. No, that spot needs to be labeled as well.
Yeah. I like that, but I'll start with a really big miscellaneous pile.
That's fine.
Slowly chip away at the miscellaneous pile.
But if you're trying to hold your employees accountable, it's like, why is there this pile of garbage here? That pile goes in the pile that's labeled garbage.
I'm missing a Festool drill. I don't have any idea where it is. And I'm like, these are the symptoms of my organizational skills. Chris Polidoro, who I'm having on Friday, runs his shop. Look, literally his shop has a downstairs to it where it's like 3 Sherwin-Williams worth of product at his shop, and everything has a label maker. He's got like 80 painters, and he's got barcodes on everything. And he'll barcode out his ladders to jobs. He'll barcode out putty to a job. And one guy, he pays a guy full time to stay in the shop and just manage stuff going in and out.
Wait, what does this guy do?
He's a paint contractor he would service your area probably, like Westchester County and New York City. He's another master certified painter. They do amazing paint jobs.
Really?
But they do like all the Greenwich, Connecticut stuff. He's got a facility that, like, you walk in there and you're like, you have more of everything Williams has in stock right now, and it's all barcoded.
Do they mix stuff?
I think he does mix some of his own paint.
Wow.
It's just so impressive to see. Like, he'll do like ladder, like inventory day, and there'll be like 50 step ladders out in the parking lot being like barcoded in. And you're just like, but how else do you run 80 painters, right?
I guess that's the only way.
It like boggles the mind.
Whoa. Yeah, I get so inspired by that. That's incredible.
He'll be on Friday. It's Shoreline Painting.
Oh, I've heard of that company.
Yeah, they're no joke. All right, so I have one more question for you.
All right.
What is your most embarrassing moment in business? Something that happened, some crazy thing. I painted the wrong house one time.
Oh, I'll probably like suppress what the really most embarrassing
No,
was.
so I've been able to like pull out some deep, dark secrets from people. So one was Nick Slavic told us a story he'd never verbalized in his life. He actually dropped paint. I'm going to tell everyone because he's such a stand-up guy. But early in his career, he was doing side work. He spilled paint on a carpet, couldn't get it out, and moved a chair over the top of it to cover it. And it's hung ever since.
I like it. So I did once. This was working for my previous boss, but it was like a Loman's shoe store. So it was like all these aisles of shoes, and I was like holding a cup bucket that was way too full, of course. And I'm painting this beam. We were just like punching it out, and they were opening the next day. And like the job super's walking up and down each aisles, and I'm just like eavesdropping as I'm touching up, and I look down and I'm just dumping paint on the floor. So he like walks past, and I whip my shirt off and just throw it over it, and I'm just painting shirtless, and they just walk right by me. But I think that one of the more embarrassing ones, even though we didn't get caught for it, was you know, the 2P10 glue, the CA glue, it's kind of like super glue.
Yeah.
So we were using that, and we left the bottle on its side on a drop cloth over a Persian rug. And I'm like, all right, let's clean up at the end of the day. It was Charlie and I, and we fold the thing, and it's like, we can't get it off the floor. So I like got under there with a Stanley knife and kind of cut it back. And then Charlie was like looking out the window. He's like, they're coming. So I'm like fading the carpet out. So it's like, and yeah, we got away with it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it looked passable. It was a bruiser rug, you know, probably Macy's or something. It wasn't a real wool rug. That's what I tell myself to help myself sleep at night.
Yeah.
I never got a call back on the job. I was very glad about that about 8 years ago now.
That's awesome. And I have to thank you for coming on. This has been awesome.
Oh, dude, the pleasure was all mine. I learned so much from you. You've definitely helped my business get to the next level. So I really appreciate everything you've done for the trade and for me.
Yeah. Same thing here, man. My organization, you inspire me to get organized, which in and of itself is huge.
Well, I'm glad to come and help you out. I got a bit of an affinity for it, but
Well, you have an open invitation anytime you want to take the trip up to Rhode Island. We'd love to have you.
I'll just like show up there and I'll be like, dude, so we'll put these labels here. You don't mind if I spray these doors really quick?
No, bring a cabinet job up. You can use the booth for free, and we'll have your expertise, and you can help with the workflow.
I like it. Maybe I'll take you up on that. You'll be like, this guy's a horrible painter.
We'll bring Lazarus with you.
All right. I'd be like, I'll like have a whiz roller in the booth. Like, why is he using the booth?
Why did he come here?
You get the better finish in the booth.
It's all for the gram. Just to take...
Yeah, exactly. See what hacks we actually are.
Great.
All right, brother. Well, this is a pleasure, and thanks for everything you do.
Hey, thank you.
See you later.
See you later, buddy. All right. That was awesome. Thank you, everybody, for watching. If you don't follow Zack at Dettmore 101, he's an incredibly entertaining follow. Probably my favorite follow on Instagram. I laugh every day at his stories. The guy's got an unbelievable take on everything. He's so over the top, goofy. Excuse me. And he also has, you know, a ton of really valuable content. If you go back and can find the post where he shows his work van, he goes to like conventions and shows off the work van. It's like a famous organized van at this point. Some of you might have seen it, but if you haven't, I highly recommend checking it out. Again, thanks for coming. Friday, we have the legend, the man, the myth, the legend, Chris Polidoro from Shoreline Painting. He missed us on the last one, but he assures me he's going to be here on Friday. and we're going to learn how he took his dad's like $1 million company and grew it to where it is today. So stay tuned for that. Thanks, guys.